So I'll go and give you a few things now. This is pictures from Nepal. We kind of talk about hazards and risks and accessibility in public areas. Singha Darbar, for example. We got a guy in a wheelchair traveling in traffic. Is that kind of okay? What kind of hazards are we subjecting these people to? What kind of risks are we taking? Think about it. And what if that were you? What would you like to demand from those people that are going to provide risk reduction? A sidewalk maybe? Disabled compliant sidewalk? So what are we really doing? Of course, the type of hazards and the type of risks that you want to take for a hazard depends on what we call a use. Okay. Similarly, we go to a restaurant. Okay, the risks are very different. What if there's a fire in this restaurant? How do you get out of there? Is anybody ever addressed that? They will tell me, oh, we have fire hoses. But then I ask, where's the water? I don't know. There's no public water supply, no pressurized system in here. Right? So our brain should be starting to think. I go to a restaurant and they tell me, sir, everything is disabled compliant, but that's a ramp. The disabled can never use it because it's too steep. Unless you got a bodyguard behind you who pushes you all along, which all the VIPs have. So those that are making these rules and trying to reduce so-called risks aren't quite aware of this. So this is like a business. You want to go pay your bill at this telephone office? Look at this. Steps. But you go inside, there's a ramp. How do you put a ramp inside when you can't get there? Okay? So that's another risk you put people with disabilities into. Similarly, what about our heritage structures? What happens if you have an earthquake? Have you ever imagined what will happen if you have an earthquake? Hazard, no? So don't you think there should be some pre-disaster mitigation going on in retrofitting these? Similarly with the business building, we build these huge buildings like these. But are they really safe? What kind of hazards are involved? Fire hazards, earthquake hazards? Are they designed properly? Who's checking? Who's verifying? If I have that 21-page, the report I showed you, if that's what that is, I am in trouble. Okay? I go to Mercantile, the same story. Access issues and fire issues. It's the hospital. That's teaching. There's a guy in a wheelchair, can't get inside because there is no ramp. He's waiting to be carried. How do you like to be carried to a hospital in a wheelchair? This is important. See that? Doctors here, how are people going to get there? Again, there are risks involved with this, isn't it? And it's an hazard. Similarly with our educational environments. I mean, this is kind of focused toward disabled, but think of it this way. St. Xavier's, right? College. Imagine if these people, it's not regulated, imagine if these people decided to have some elementary school kids up on this floor and we have a fire. What happens? You think those kids can come out? Unless you have done this pre-mitigation design that says, yeah. But in reality, by code, we don't allow children on these high-rise buildings, tall buildings like that, always mostly on the ground floor, because they are vulnerable. Again, that's pre-disaster mitigation. Those issues need to be addressed. I'm going to take you to our shopping centers, the same thing, no access. We don't know. So anyway, so there are all kinds of hazards that are involved, including in apartments and hotels. And these hazards, unless you mitigate them in the beginning, never get addressed. Then that's why I tell you this is going to be 10 times worse than in Haiti. Because these pre-disaster mitigations have not been addressed. Fire requirements have not been addressed. Even structural requirements may not have been addressed. Liquefaction issues have not been addressed. Slide issues have not been addressed. A major hydropower project trying to build a tunnel, a couple of kilometers of tunnel with 3 soil borings. Results. Is that acceptable to reduce your risk? Common sense says no. And then they say, oh, my tunnels are all falling apart. They're all falling. We can't figure it out. Of course you can't figure it out. Because you haven't taken these required pre-mitigation soil sampling. Everybody thinks the Kathmandu is crowded. Of course it's crowded. And everybody's doing all kinds of very nice things. So there's something called going on here, okay? It's called Ministry of Physical Infrastructure Data, Kathmandu Sustainable Urban Transport Project. You know what that is? Anybody heard of that? Anybody heard of that? No, right? This is in the design stage, right? What they're doing is they're going to improve, I understand, 11 kilometers of Kathmandu sidewalks. Okay? So, good idea, isn't it? Great idea. $20 million in aid. But then think about it. And think of it this way. If I added these two words, Kathmandu Sustainable Urban, Disabled and Elderly Friendly Urban Transport Project, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think it'll be more expensive? You think so?
The values you give.
Okay, the values you give. Okay, what else? Let me tell you this. They put those two words in there and they designed it accordingly. It would cost them zero extra money in Nepal's context. Zero extra money. It has to do with three things. Location, dimension, geometry. Okay, so instead of when you make a 7-foot wide footpath and you put the right slope, is that going to cost you more money? You are making a 7-foot wide footpath for sure, but if you put the right slope, it's good, usable by the disabled, isn't it? But we don't think of it that way. So what is this again? Post-disaster, pre-disaster issues, isn't it? Let me go here. Do you know where this is? Awesome. I call it the death trap. Because what used to be 2-3-story buildings are now what? 7, 8, 9-story buildings, right? All these gullies, what happens in an earthquake? Anybody live in that area? Arvind, what happens to your house? Your house is still small.
It's going to be small now.
It's still smaller. But what do you think will happen when these buildings come down and collapse? Do you think anything that you do for post-disaster is going to work? When everybody's under buried rubble and we have no way whatsoever to go get there? How many days are going to leave those corpses there? Think about it. But if you design these buildings properly based on pre-mitigation techniques, and I'll show you why it's not, why I'm making all this statement, then obviously maybe you will get some damage, but people won't get killed, right? We'll have the ability to save a lot of lives, but we're not doing that.
हिमाल कै जलधारा